The ongoing conflict in Gaza has inflicted unimaginable suffering on its civilian population. Since the beginning of this latest escalation, the human cost has been nothing short of staggering. Thousands of innocent lives have been lost, homes reduced to rubble, and families torn apart. The situation is especially dire for journalists trying to report on the conflict. Many have been killed, injured, or impeded in their work. Their vital role in illuminating the truth of this crisis cannot be understated. The recent air raids, particularly those targeting densely populated areas, have resulted in a heart-wrenching loss of life. The images emerging from Gaza are a stark reminder of the human cost of this conflict. The international community must demand an end to the violence and work towards a lasting solution that protects civilians and upholds their human rights. The stories of individual Gazans, their resilience, their losses, and their hopes for a brighter future deserve to be heard. This conflict is not merely a geopolitical struggle, it's a human tragedy of immense proportions. Each number in the casualty reports represents a life lost, a family shattered, and a community left to grieve. The world must not turn a blind eye to the plight of the Palestinian people, who deserve to live in peace, security, and dignity. The Gaza Strip, already grappling with years of blockade and economic hardship, is now facing a full-blown humanitarian crisis. The relentless bombardment has crippled essential infrastructure, leaving the population teetering on the brink. The healthcare system is on the verge of collapse, with hospitals overwhelmed and running dangerously low on essential supplies. The combination of displacement, food shortages, and contaminated water has created a breeding ground for disease. The most vulnerable, especially children and the elderly, are bearing the brunt of this crisis. The already dire living conditions in Gaza have been exacerbated by the recent escalation. The international community must act swiftly and decisively to address the unfolding humanitarian catastrophe and provide immediate relief to the beleaguered population. The continued blockade has severely restricted the flow of essential goods, including food, medicine, and fuel. This has led to skyrocketing prices, making basic necessities unaffordable for many. The international community must pressure all parties to ensure unimpeded humanitarian access to Gaza. The international community's response to the crisis in Gaza has been mixed. While there have been widespread condemnations of the violence and calls for a ceasefire, concrete action has been slow and insufficient. The United Nations Security Council, often paralyzed by geopolitical divisions, has struggled to reach a consensus on a resolution. Despite the challenges, there have been some glimmers of hope. Several countries and international organizations have pledged humanitarian aid for Gaza. The International Criminal Court's decision to investigate potential war crimes is a step towards accountability. Civil society groups around the world have mobilized in solidarity with the Palestinian people, organizing protests and raising awareness about the crisis. However, much more needs to be done. The international community must go beyond condemnations and take concrete steps to end the blockade, ensure the protection of civilians, and hold all parties accountable for violations of international law. A just and lasting solution must address the root causes of the conflict, including the occupation and the denial of Palestinian self-determination. The current escalation in Gaza is a stark reminder of the urgent need for a just and lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The cycle of violence, suffering, and despair must end. The international community has a moral and political responsibility to act decisively and create the conditions for a sustainable peace. A lasting peace requires a fundamental shift in the dynamics of the conflict. This includes an end to the occupation, a just resolution to the refugee issue, and mutual recognition and respect. The two-state solution, based on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as the capital of a Palestinian state, remains the most viable path to peace. However, this goal seems increasingly distant with each passing day of violence. The human cost of this conflict is simply too high to bear. The international community must act now to break the cycle of violence and create a future where both Israelis and Palestinians can live in peace, security, and dignity. The time for empty rhetoric is over. The time for meaningful action is now.